Great. Good afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to be here. And we're quite excited to be talking about the customer side of fraud and cybersecurity. So I've got some hopefully tough but useful questions that I'd like to ask our panel. But let's begin very quickly, if you would mind, and I'll start on the far side and just ask if you wouldn't mind, Brittany, just to, in 30 seconds, introduce yourself, what you do, where you're from, and then we'll get into the discussion. Yeah. And we'll just follow along on the panel. Thank you.
So I will be faster than 30 seconds because if you were here less than an hour ago, I already went over that. So Brittany Allen, Trust and Safety Architect. I work for a fraud prevention company called SIFT, and I get to do lots of fun stuff like fraud research and customer advocacy, and also help companies basically set up their approach to fraud prevention.
Thank you very much.
I'm Naushad. I head this company called Fable FinTech. It's a banking technology company. And as an iceberg, we do all the work below the water and let everybody have fun above the water.
Thank you. Itumeleng?
Itumeleng Magati. I'm the Group Information Security Executive at Standard Bank. So I'm responsible for the protection of the bank end-to-end across all of our 18 operations in Africa.
Thank you. Joseph?
Joseph Stokes from Tillisher Investment Holdings, heading up the security and IT governance division there. So everything from keeping the hackers at bay to giving business the confidence to operate.
Thank you very much. And I'm Alden. So I'm sitting here in my capacity as a non-executive director of CXSA, Customer Experience South Africa. We're building a professional body as a body of experts to make sure that standards for customer experience and customer experience management is where it could be, where it should be in the country. So we really want to be, for our industry, for our discipline, what, let me say, CIPA is for accountants. That's what we want to be. And of course, we'd love everyone to check us out and sign up and contribute to creating the kind of customer experience-centric organizations and country that we could be. So when thinking about fraud and customer experience, a couple of things came to mind. Hope you don't mind. I'm just going to read through it, a couple of themes, and our engagement, our questioning to the panel will center around these themes. So I thought about models for fraud prevention and cybersecurity, and all of this stuff is really good. But is it really helping the customer? Is it creating great experience, or actually distracting or detracting from that experience? I've been thinking about that. Security protocols that are in place, are they helping or hampering customer experience intended outcomes? Are they actually pushing customers away? Are they causing churn? Organizations like to put processes and controls in place that make it great for internal compliance, but make it very difficult for clients and customers. So is that really what we ought to be doing? Machine learning. This is an emerging technology thing. I don't know, a bunch of bots running around in clouds and skies. Does this play a role in helping with fraud prevention and helping with customer experience? And how does that interplay work? And what about personalization? What role does personalization play in, and maybe I'll start with that question to you, Naushad. Personalization in the cross-border transfer of money. Is that important to your customers, or is it just, I want to send the money as quickly as possible?
No, personalization is very important in general across genres, whether you're booking a movie ticket, air ticket, sending money, using your credit card, so on and so forth. But it also has to be, you've got to strike a fine balance between personalization and intrusion. You've got to be non-intrusive and yet be personalized. So you can't keep after the customer's life saying, I'm doing this in the name of personalization. So that's rule number one for personalization. Number two, things like, I'm living in South Africa. I want to send money to my family in whatever, Namibia. I have to send them money every month, say 200 Rand, 5,000 Rand, whatever that number is. If I can go to the portal and put a standing instruction saying, just take 5,000 Rand from my account every first of the month and send it to my family, and then I don't have to log back into, say, assuming it's Standard Bank's portal, that's a great experience, and it's very personalized without having gone after you and made it personalized. So personalization is a mix between what the customer really, really wants,
right,
and how well we can identify that and then service it, rather than in the name of personalization, really spamming you or telling you things you don't want to hear, and then actually pissing you off more than making you happy.
So I find that I send emails to myself that I didn't send. I wonder if that's personalization or if that's something else. And so thinking about that, what are the sort of trends and themes that you see in the marketplace these days around fintech and personalization?
So, like I mentioned in the morning, there are two answers to this question. One is which people want to hear in conferences, and one is what people want to hear in conference rooms. And I prefer to stick to the one in conference rooms. The one that's important for in this particular case is it's not a one size fits all. So we got to sit and understand whether this particular aspect we're trying to address, does it even involve personalization? And if it doesn't, then let's not waste our time and let's not piss the customer off. If it does involve personalization of some kind, what's the level? What's the frequency of use? What's the end goal? How much money is at stake? Is it buying a 50 Rand movie ticket or is it a 10,000 Rand cross-border transaction? So on and so forth. So if you do not have those appropriate waterfalls to make sure that you're addressing this personalization query in a personalized manner, it would kind of fall flat on its face.
Thank you very much. So, Itumeleng, I'd like to ask you a question or two. Standard Bank, biggest bank in South Africa, been in the news lately, not always for the best of reasons. We saw the news about Alpheus, we saw the news about platforms and stability. So in your world, how do you really approach this balance of, security versus experience?
Yeah, thanks for acknowledging that Standard Bank is the biggest bank. Okay, so just coming back to your question. I think even before the time of COVID, digital transformation was already starting to change how we live, how we play, how we shop, and how we work. But we've seen that in the last 2 years, this digital transformation has just been accelerated at a tremendous pace that we haven't seen before. I think that's the key thing that we just need to keep in mind. From a Standard Bank perspective, data shows that more and more of our customers are now going online. A typical customer that would have preferred to go into a branch to interact with someone on their banking transactions has actually taken that uncomfortable step or outside of their comfort zone to actually create a profile to go onto a mobile app to interact with the bank because people needed to social distance. And because of that, there's now more and more pressure to ensure that we provide services that are stable. There's more pressure to ensure that our services are available all the time from anywhere on any device. Gone are the days where banking was an 8 to 4 activity. You have customers that are demanding that if at any time you want to send money to your family across the border, I expect that the app will be available. I think that's the key thing. But the important thing that we also need to remember is that there are so many competitors in the market now, and customers can change their mind and decide to leave if you're not giving them the right experience. That is the key thing, that a customer has power. So it should all be about making things easier for the customer. As much as wearing a security hat, I also want to ensure that I protect the customer's data without actually putting in too many processes or creating friction on that process. I also need to ensure that I'm thinking about the customer experience. We sometimes hear that security is seen as a hindrance, or security is seen as something that blocks how a customer interacts with your product. But it can be seen as a competitive advantage because we know that customers will be loyal to a brand that they believe will protect their identity, will manage their privacy with any data that they share with that platform. So those are just some of the things that we need to be thinking about when we're building solutions, having the right balance between not creating friction, but still being able to protect what the customer is sharing with us.
So I have a friend, in fact, she serves with me on the board of CXSA, and she used to work for a nameless bank, but it's red. And even as an employee, she keeps on complaining that they require you to log into the platforms with your bank account number. Now, this is the one thing that sort of stood out because, point of view friction. Why is that? Is nobody thinking over there? But issue for another day. Joseph, I'd like to ask you, so you're at Telesure, you own big brands like, Budget and...
Auto in General,
Auto in General,
yeah.
so on, if everyone doesn't know. In your world, where do you think the balance lies between, fraud, cybersecurity, CX? And I'm actually quite curious because I know a little bit more about your organization. What does a good implementation of this really look like?
I think the previous presentation touched on a theme there, the willingness to learn, unlearn, relearn, right? And I think that the key thing to remember is that as the technology landscape evolves, as the threat landscape evolves, the way that we implement our security controls also need to evolve. And we shouldn't just add layer upon layer of security onto things, because that's when it starts becoming like a speed bump in the road. We need to relook at things periodically to say, can we scrap it and do it better completely? An example of that would be something like where passwords became longer and longer and longer, and eventually us as consumers started saying, well, how am I going to remember 100 different credentials with a password complexity that I cannot fathom myself? So you end up actually reducing the security in such a way, instead of offering, for example, instead of going long passwords and super complex, offer biometrics, offer passwordless solutions. It's important to keep abreast of what the technology landscape is doing and offering, especially now with the advent of decentralized identity. I don't know how many people are aware of that that's coming up, and I think Microsoft's just launched the first product in that space, but that's going to be huge for the average consumer and for organizations from a privacy perspective.
Brittany, question for you, please. And hopefully you can give us a fintech example and an international perspective, both in one go. So, in the advice that you give, is there a story you can tell us, a case study of turning a negative fraud, cyber risk story into a positive one?
Yes, there is. So an account takeover event, or when someone has their account logged into and fraudsters do whatever they want with it, is a really negative experience for a consumer, and very likely to be one of the most sort of negative experiences they might have on that platform. And I know of one company that was able to take within their trust and safety and customer support response organization and take those complaints about account takeover that came in via email and other points of contact and actually flip them around and get the highest NPS score, so the most positive response out of any category of contact within their entire company. And that even included simple things like, how do I reset my password? How do I sign up? How do I download this app? Like just very simple points of contact. So you would think that should be a very low score, because even if someone who has their account taken over contacts the company and gets their account restored, the bad things still happened. They still have that impact on trust for the company. But what this organization did was, instead of just providing that service and helping them restore the account, they provided a lot of education around why that account takeover might have happened. They shared information about how this user should also probably go change their email address password, especially if it was the same one in combination with their email that had been used on this platform, how they could protect themselves across the internet. And they set the sort of opinion of that consumer away from, this company is dangerous, they probably had a data breach, they let my information get stolen, to, I need to be safer online, this could happen to me again somewhere else. And because of that information sharing, again, they made it so that the Net Promoter Score, or NPS response to those particular points of contact, were the highest, the most positive in their entire company. So like for me, that was a gold standard of seeing them take a negative situation and keep those customers and actually help them be safer.
So one of the customer experience things that is really effective if you want to improve your CSAT, NPS, and other related metrics is service recovery. Mm-hmm. And I hope that no one's really intentionally causing customer issues so that you can recover, so that you can boost your scores. One of the emails I sent to myself, Brittany, was to email the Prince of Nigeria, I think.
Oh, good.
So that he can buy Bitcoin on my behalf, something like that. So I was.
Can you get me one of those emails?
I'd love to.
Like
I'd love to.
Thank you.
So curious about, are you seeing any new scams coming in affecting?
He's just going to ask you your password in return.
Oh no, see, now I'm in trouble. We're seeing a lot of different scams. What's a really good one to call out? There's one that's been making the rounds lately that is I'll actually do a different one. So social media hostage situations. That's a pretty good one. We've seen that really involve cryptocurrency, and basically somebody will, maybe on Instagram, maybe on TikTok, whatever the platform is, they will come in contact with somebody who guarantees that if they invest money in this particular crypto, exchange, that they will make a huge profit. And it is effective for some of these people because they're not having information stolen from them at that time point. They're just shown the exchange and they choose to sign up for it. What they don't know is that that is a malicious exchange. Any money that they send into that wallet, of course, they'll never be able to reverse. They'll also never be able to withdraw it. And they're shown fake returns that show their investments going through the roof for this coin that they've never heard of. And so then in the end, they put more money in and more money in. Now, where the hostage situation can come from is we've seen these kind of scams go multiple ways. One is actually, it's called pig butchering, and it's done on romance sites. And that is the actual name. It's usually run out of China in those cases. But another one is where they will look for the reuse of that email address and password combination and then try it on social media sites and take over that person's account. Like, let's say, take over their Instagram and start posting about the fake crypto exchange there. But if that doesn't work, what instead they'll do is tell the person, the victim, yeah, you figured it out. You've lost money sending it into this fake exchange. But if you post a video on your TikTok singing the praises of my investment, of tagging me, of saying how much money you made, then I'll give you your money back. And so that person makes a decision. Okay, fine. I will post a TikTok saying that I invested with Brittany Allen and she made me 10 times more money than I put in, and I'm so grateful to her. And then once they give me my money back, I'm going to delete this TikTok, etc. But that doesn't happen. They never get their money back. And more people click, more people fall for the scam. So even though that ends up going into two different venues, I talked about how it touches on dating sites and also how it'll appear on social media. But in the end, you have people who've never invested in crypto in their entire life, and their first experience is being ripped off. And so that means then that they have far less trust in crypto, in all of that technology that could be so beneficial, because of what happened with their first, introduction.
So this wasn't planned. Nishad, I'm going to ask this question to you. This wasn't planned. Bitcoin, a fiat currency. What are your thoughts? And is Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies going to be the ticket to freedom for us as humanity?
So as long as you use it as a currency, it's just a method of exchange. 5 Rand equal to 1 Indian rupee, vice versa, so on and so forth. So many Bitcoin equal to that many XRP equal to that many Rand. If you continue to use it as a currency, I don't see any problem in using currency A over B as long as it's legal in the respective jurisdictions that you're using it. The moment you start looking at it as something that you can gamble with, or it's a commodity, or it's something which is beyond just currency, that's where the risks start. And the risk actually starts with 99.9% people, if not 99.999% people, not having the basic understanding of how to trade anything like this. And the fad principle that you said, it's the simpler analogy to that is, people believe in their minds that air travel is very dangerous, but far more people die in road accidents than they die in air accidents. That's because when you're in the air, or when you're flying, you're forced to do certain things, even if you don't like them, like wear your seatbelt and do this and do that, because they're aware of the danger. So the more you get aware of the danger, the more careful you start becoming. And I think it's one of the important requirements of the industry, whether it's banks, technology providers like us, security providers, influencers. Everybody should be making people more aware of this. And the result is very simple. It's perception is reality. In America, people think I'm very thin, and in India, they think I'm very fat. I'm the same guy. So beyond the point, we can't do anything about those kind of perceptions.
So you got me thinking, and Joseph, I'm going to ask you this question about cumbersome process and, again, governance. So if a process is cumbersome and it's difficult for customers, shouldn't it be reviewed? Shouldn't it be amended? I don't even listen to the safety announcements in the plane anymore, for example, right? To your point. So how do we...
But that's because you know them now.
Maybe.
That's the reason.
Maybe, yeah. So what I wanted to ask, should governance processes not be reviewed often to ensure that things are in alignment with both the evolving landscape but also customer experience outcomes?
Absolutely. And it speaks within a similar vein from what I said earlier. The governance is there for a reason, but the reasons also change. So we need to make sure that whatever we have in place is still relevant. And is it the best way we're applying it? We might want to implement the security control that we did 10 years ago. It's not going to be relevant. It's not going to be fit for purpose 10, 20 years down the line. So we also can't just leave it there and become complacent and say, well, it's there now. Let's move on and forget about it. We have to continuously review from both a security perspective as well as a business perspective. What is really important, though, is, a mention was made earlier around security being a hassle or getting in the way. And I'm a firm believer that if security is included in the beginning, when you plan, when you design, when you strategize, it appears seamless. You won't even know it's there. Good security won't be a hindrance at all. It's more if the business moves forward and then tries to add security after the fact, definitely going to pick up problems.
And perhaps final question to you, Tumeleng. Something that I've been thinking about quite a lot and that we find in our advisory to organizations. Perhaps there isn't clarity in what your customer buys from you versus what you think you sell. So in your world, I get very annoyed when I see a billboard that says bank better. With respect, I don't bank. You're a payment processor to help me achieve and acquire the things that matter to me. That's all you do. Don't tell me to bank better. So with that in mind, what's the difference then between the gold check account and the silver check account and the role that that plays in meeting my needs, addressing my personal needs? For me, I can do everything online anyway. There's no difference between gold, silver, and bronze, except the price of ego. Investment banking and those kind of banks, different story. So in your world, how do you make sure that the product is actually fit for the customer's needs? And then how do you bake security into that?
Yeah, you're right. I think if you were to go back 10 years ago, that would have been a scenario where we just put a set of services or offerings in front of our clients and we say, pick one that will fit what you require. But I think now where we are, we find that personalization has become a critical element in our business. And we're using data as a way to drive those conversations. We need to know you as a customer across all of our platforms. If you have a home loan with Standard Bank, if we're financing your car, if you have different accounts that you're servicing with Standard Bank, we need to understand your profile end to end across all of these platforms to put a process or a service offering that will be bespoke to you. And it's not going to be similar to anyone else's process. So I think that the power is in the data. How do we use data to drive those decisions and to personalize services for our customers? That's really where we are at this stage.
So just a concluding remark, and then we'll end. I'm in an emotional breakup with a very big insurance company that may or may not be on this road somewhere. Very smart strategy around the data. Started with healthcare and then a loyalty program and then watching what you buy at Pick and Pay. So now they know what you buy and what you eat so that they know what medical aid claims are coming, right? And so now they've started a bank and now all the money comes in and the money never leaves the ecosystem. And they've got car insurance and they put the monitoring device in the car so they know how fast you drive and where you go and how likely you are to, I don't know, put a hole in your neighbor's wall, whatever it is. And on the one hand, we may think that this is great service, customer experience, and personalization. I just wonder, and this is me, when COVID hit and our freedoms were taken away, did we not give it up too cheaply? So I'll end it there. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Are you trying to start a protest?
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, the world used to be free, open, and anonymous, or the internet used to be. Now it's the opposite in very many respects. Totally. I think I value my privacy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A big thank you to our panel.